Welcome to the Charrons Zone. I'm super excited because I'm doing a discovery today. So I have a really badass, super high energy, awesome Nashville recording artist with me, PJ Ferguson. What's up, PJ?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for being here. So this is really cool. We don't know each other, but I came across you online and then friended you on social media and all that fun stuff. But I thought it would be cool to kind of discover and let everybody listening and watching kind of discover you in real time as I do as well. So I came across some of your videos somewhere. I don't know if it was YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or something or TikTok. But all I know about you is that you put on amazing performances, super high energy. I love that stuff. Um, and you're in Nashville, so if you want to just kind of tell me and everybody listening and watching like a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got started and how you got to be where you are.
Well, yeah, I live in Nashville the past 4+ years. Been performing pretty much since I got here. I got here during COVID, so
Mm.
I started out playing to basically just empty tables and chairs at about 10 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm. Yep.
And I was never like on a schedule, a consistent schedule. They would call me and be like, "Can you come in right now?" It'd be like 9:30. And that's the way it was for like 4 or 5, 6 months,
Yep.
and just saying yes a lot. Um, that developed into me starting my own band down here, and to where I am today now, performing, um, on the main stages on Broadway. It's definitely high energy. Yeah, I mean, you definitely, if you've seen some of the videos, definitely we definitely emphasis on the high energy.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
we just recorded an album of original material, 16 songs back in January.
Mm. Awesome. Awesome. What's the name of that?
It's called Don't You Know It's All a Show,
Don't
which
you
is,
know? Oh, sure.
which is a line in one of the songs. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Well, this is perfect because a lot of people ask me if they should move to Nashville, and I did a couple of other episodes on whether they should move to Nashville. So I think hearing from you, the specifics because you're there doing it. So we can just go back. So when you started, basically you started kind of as a sub when they call and
Yeah.
you're, hey, can you be over here? So did you do that as solo acoustic or
Yeah, solo acoustic. I mean, it depends on what your obviously your instrument is. If you're a singer and you're looking to front a band, that's usually who gets booked at most of the bars down here on Broadway. They book typically singers, and the singers then is responsible for putting together the band.
Yep.
Um, so in my route, I was gonna need to get my own gigs. I wasn't gonna be playing guitar on other people's gigs. And I'm not a lead guitar player or a
Right.
drummer. Um, so if you're a drummer or you're a bass player or a keyboard player, you're gonna go a slightly different route. You're gonna want to sub in with the band. You'll still be a sub
Yeah.
starting out for sure,
Yeah.
um, and get your name out there. But that it'll be a different route than definitely the one I took.
Yeah. And so how did you initially even get to be on basically on people's sub list or waiting list?
Um, I've visited Nashville a couple times prior to moving here,
Mhm.
and it's funny enough. I was a full-time musician before I moved here in upstate New York, and then COVID hit, and then
Mhm.
that became impossible to continue. Um, but in my times visiting Nashville, I made a couple friends who were playing down here. Made friends by paying $100 to get up and sing, which a lot of the bars don't let you do anymore
Oh,
now. Yeah, it's crazy because that's the way I got in, really. Because I did it a couple times, and that's standard practice. It was a standard practice back then of like, you want to get up and sing, you pay $100. Now a lot of the bars don't allow you to do that, and some still do, and some people charge even like $500. But there's a lot of different ways. Then when I was living here, I was just really persistent um, with the people that I'd met, and um, just going. A friend of mine says if you're home on the couch, you're not accomplishing anything, which
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
it's tempting to do.
Yep.
It's but so I would went to a few open jams.
Mhm.
Um, one used to be at a bar called Bowie's on Third Avenue. It's now closed, but um, I ended up going to that jam, meeting people at the jam that are currently actually my drummer now is the drummer of that jam. Like, but
Yeah.
that didn't happen like it was years before he became my drummer actually.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's just weird, like every connection you make might not pay off,
It,
in
it
24 hours or
yeah,
a week,
it's
but maybe
interesting.
yeah.
It's interesting too how um I moved, years ago I moved to Nashville full time, and then I started touring, and then I started moving all over the place, and now I'm moving back full time next month. And but like you kind of develop a class, like almost like in high school or college, where you have like the people that you meet when you kind of first get there, and then it's kind of cool, to kind of grow with those people and see how they're doing and see how you're doing, and then you end up, having the drummer a few
Yeah.
years later as your drummer. But these are all great things for anybody considering moving to Nashville. So anybody listening and watching, number one, visit before you decide to move. Definitely a great idea. Um, Going downtown or wherever live music is, and
Yeah.
meeting people
And
before you
you
get
definitely don't have to pay the band to get up.
there.
That was in a different era of my life, but
Yeah.
uh, lot lot more drinking, but visiting prior to moving to Nashville. But honestly, you go down, and I would say you go down and meet people, see what the bands are doing, um, and see if that's something you'd be interested in doing. Because I think it's different here than it is anywhere else too. I mean, so you might think you might want to do it, but really watch the bands and observe what they're doing, the songs they're playing, be like, do I want to do that? You know.
Yeah, can you tell everybody how different it is in playing downtown Nashville than anywhere else?
There's no breaks. It's 4 hours consecutively.
Mhm.
Sometimes even a little bit more than 4 hours if you're playing a closing shift.
Mhm.
Um, so that's a big thing. There's no set breaks. Um, you're almost completely reliant on tips for your income. The base pay is not going to pay your bills
Yep.
in the bars. So you're reliant on tips, and to be reliant on tips means you're reliant on requests, and relying on requests from people all around the world means you gotta know a lot of different styles of music and a lot of different songs by a lot of different artists. Um, it's like you gotta know some rock. I mean, you gotta know rock, country, pop. Um, I think if you want to succeed, you got to be versatile. Um, if you at least in that department.
Yeah.
So that's how it's so different. Like, bars aren't really just like uh, booking like one style of bands. There's a couple bars now. John Bon Jovi's just opened, and they're pretty much exclusively rock. But for the most part, most of the bars, you know, they're there's a few country bars, but then most of the bars I'd say are a mix of
And
country and rock.
would you say basically all the bars are that jukebox format where you're expected to take requests from, even if it's a rock bar, like the whole idea is that you're taking all these different rock requests, or is that
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you're definitely expected to take requests for sure. Especially because I mean that's really how you make your tip money at the end of the day. Um, and some of the bars, not all the bars do this, but um, most of the older bars still do. um, you run a tip bucket actually around. So that's like a whole new experience that you don't see anywhere else, definitely.
So are
Um,
you doing that yourself?
I do it, and my female singer I work with does it, and we swap off about every hour to 90 minutes doing that.
Okay, so you've got a
Co-front. Yeah.
every gig you do is with a co-front? Because I was going to ask you how, I mean, even doing that, how do you vocally
Oh yeah.
handle
That's a
it?
good point. Yeah, for that's another thing. It's we play 4 times a week, 4-hour shifts. So yeah, to have a co-front that can take up the singing, especially because if you have a female and a male, you can cover pretty much all the ground of,
Yeah,
you know, a, you know, uh, when it comes to requests as well.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think vocally, I mean, maybe if you have like Broadway experience in New York, like musical experience, maybe that sets you up for it. But I would say it's just something you kind of develop and get used to over time, and you work on, with a vocal coach. And practice healthy habits of sleep,
Yeah.
um, in diet, exercise, and there's certain nights where you're like, uh, you know, I got a big, I got an important gig tomorrow. I can't, do anything tonight.
Yeah.
That, so that kind of stuff. Yeah, definitely. Obviously, drinking and drugs will also not gonna help.
I was going to ask you, let's go there.
Yeah,
How's the party scene? I mean, I know it's a big party for the tourists, but how is it for musicians and how has it been for you? And I have a lot of friends that kind of went through the grind and they were, I don't party or drink
yeah,
really pretty, like now personally I'll maybe have a drink like average once a month, but
yeah,
never performing. Um, and just what you said, man, I found that the better shape I'm in and the better I'm, you know, eating and sleeping and just overall fitness, just it's everything is better and easier.
yeah.
But your personal experience, how did it go for you? Like,
Yeah, I quit drinking a little over 3 years ago, entirely. So most of my Nashville experience is uh, with no alcohol, and that honestly, I feel like I've been performing pretty much my entire life since I was like 14 years old. I've been playing music in bars, but I feel like I actually became a great performer only once, not as soon as I quit, but quitting drinking because it taught me to have confidence in myself without any crutch. And that was the battle to go through for that. But
yeah,
once you find that, like, no, like that confidence, like I rock, I can do this, and there's nothing holding you up. I mean, that's I feel like when you find the magic.
absolutely, man. I quit completely for 5 years, a 5 year stretch. And I tell everybody, that's when my career went from to and just
Yeah,
exploded. And then, we started doing these really big shows opening for like uh Charlie Daniels and Brett Michaels and like, these big national acts. And I decided that, I like when you're playing in front of hundreds, thousands of people, I didn't want anything, I didn't want any excuse for me to be sloppy
mm,
afterwards. I didn't want to second guess myself at all. And also just the unbelievable, as I'm sure um, the unbelievable adrenaline rush and the energy of performing and being on fire when you're performing. I didn't want to dull that either. I wanted
right.
to feel all that, magic, you know?
Yeah. No, I totally feel that. And for me, a lot of it was a lot of anxiety the next day.
Yes, sir.
That that of like, yeah, and it's anxiety that may or may not be warranted, but you'll never really know. But that's kind of anxiety in a
Right.
nutshell.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you know people as well. Some good friends of mine, we used to play downtown. They were doing, I think like 5 or 6 shifts a week, but man, like they were every show, they're like, yeah, the people were buying us shots all night. And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea how you do it. They're playing like till close and drinking, the
Yeah,
whole time. And they got so burnt out, like just
yeah,
where they didn't want to do it anymore.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I've definitely seen that happen to a bunch of people since I've been here.
Yeah.
Uh, it's definitely common. That was the thing, like, because honestly, 2, 3 drinks a night at 4 or 5 days a week it definitely adds up, even, if that's what you're capping at.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. And for me, it was tough to cap it. I
yeah,
started,
yeah.
I,
I'm curious to know how, after 5 years, decided to start again and how that's gone.
um, I went to Costa Rica and I was like, oh, it's been 5 years. I think I'm gonna have a beer. And then honestly, I'm not good at it.
Yeah,
So a lot like now when I'm gonna have when I'm gonna drink, it's like a whole plan has to be in
yeah,
place. It is not even almost, but it's too much work to even make it worth it. But
yeah,
I do it every once in a while to celebrate something or um but yeah, now it's like, oh, I have to plan, drinking water and electrolytes and then, where I'm gonna go. I have to go early. I have to order something to eat as soon as I order the
yeah,
drink because I found that, if I just go on an empty stomach and I start having like, one beer turns into five because if I don't eat and I have an empty stomach. So it's just this whole thing.
yeah,
So to be honest with you, it hasn't been worth starting it, you know. Um,
yeah.
so I think I'm gonna keep dwindling down my once a month to a lot less. But
Hey, you do you. I think it's sure it's different for everybody. I just know that once I start drinking, I just have extreme FOMO. So it's like it's not even about the drinking as much as like if I'm having a great time, I just don't want to go home.
yeah, you don't want to stop having a great time.
Yeah. So that's
So
not a good combo with alcohol, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, I definitely found that now what I do is when I'm thinking about like, oh, should I whatever stop at this place and have a drink on the way home? I always think of the next day. I'm like, okay, well, how is it going to affect my waking up? How's it going to affect my sleep? How's it going to affect my workout? Because I'm obsessed with training and working out again, which is
Yeah.
the greatest thing to be obsessed with. Um,
Yes.
and like this morning, I went to the beach and did a whole like an hour of working out and training for beach volleyball. And I think and I feel like a billion dollars, when I'm doing it and after. And so if I'm going to go for a drink, I think like, is it worth feeling like crap tomorrow,
Yeah.
not sleeping well and all that stuff? So, um,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely never woke up and said, I wish I drank yesterday.
right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. There's not many times I've woken up after drinking and been like, oh man, I'm so glad that I have
Yeah.
a hangover right now. This is great. But um, yeah, so like I said, a lot of people listen and watch and they're thinking about moving to Nashville. Is there any tips, advice that additional that you could give to someone thinking about it?
Um, yeah, definitely come check it out because it's changing. It's changed since I've moved here, just in four, and a half years. I mean, there was 5 new bars on Broadway just in the past year. That's a
Yeah.
lot. With 3 stages each at them, or or whatever. Um, so come check it out, number one. And if you do like it, and you do like you want to make a living year round, um, I'd say the two things are be reliable and be present. Um, you know,
Great.
people who it's always like even I'm guilty of it when I need a sub. Let's say I need a sub drummer, and usually the call is going to be maybe somebody that is just talk to me.
Yeah,
You know,
whoever's on the top of your mind, right?
yeah, it's top of mind.
Yeah.
So if you're present, you'll stay on people's, top of mind, obviously. I mean, obviously, if you develop a great reputation, you're probably going to pick up a gig anyways and not be doing as much sub work. If you'll probably get with bands that will book you up
Yeah.
consistently all the time,
Yeah.
uh, over time. But yeah, I'd say yes and listen and learn from everyone around you because everyone's doing things a little bit differently. And I feel like you can learn what to do and what not to do real quick from just going out and watching bands and
Yeah.
all learn from each other. And we all that's I love what I love about being here is what's cool uh is anywhere else I feel like I shouldn't say anywhere else, but anywhere else I've ever like been, being a full-time musician is looked at as like, well, it's not like a real job. Which I never, I mean, it's always been a real job to me.
Yeah.
But here in Nashville, I mean, it almost feels like when you're in the elevator, the parking garage, and you have other musicians, everyone's walking down Broadway to their it feels like you're going in for a factory work, but you're a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like in a way, like it's like so many people sharing the same passion and
Yeah,
uh
you're surrounded by a bunch of freaks like you, that are
yeah,
obsessed with songs and music and guitars and
and
sing.
just people who don't just want to do it on the side, that's the thing is like
Yeah.
not, they want to do it full time.
Yep. Yeah. No, I agree. And there's a great camaraderie and a great actual, I mean, it's the best music scene in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just that's what I love about it. That's what I love the people and I love the camaraderie and feeling like you're actually in like a real legit the most I don't know professional music scene that there is.
Yeah.
And one thing that I noticed about you is that it seems like and it really like you really grabbed my attention because I was like, man, this guy is taking full advantage of the downtown Nashville scene. Because your shows are just different just because of the energy and you're a total showman, which I think it's phenomenal. And
Yeah.
it seems like you're doing something a little bit different than most acts that are playing on Broadway, which kudos to you. I think it's amazing. And so that leads me to my next question. Are you playing your original songs during your sets?
Yeah, so we usually do a couple songs during the set. You know, and I either have two ways of going about it. Is one, I'll be like, hey, we this next song is ours. Hey, if you dig this, you know, check us out on Instagram, send me a message, I'll send you the song. Like, because some of these songs aren't even out yet. They're just, like I just said, I just made a record. It's done, but it's not out yet.
Yeah.
So trying to like build a relationship that way. And number two is we'll just play it and
Mhm.
then tell people afterwards. It kind of just read the vibe of the room and see.
That's beautiful market research, man. Like
Yeah,
you just play your originals, and don't announce them or anything, and then you kind of just sit back and watch the reaction. because I always say you can't fake an audience's reaction. So
Right.
when you
If you're
play
kind
three songs throughout the night and then you're like, oh man, they really got into this one, then you know that that's
yeah.
connected
And
without
if
like, you setting it up.
Yeah, and if like you've already set up like in the room where like you've set up some connections where it's like you already feel like let's say it all depends on the gig, but most of the gigs we're doing now are late night like party gigs, so we're not usually announcing it. But I'd say like if you're on an earlier shift
Mhm.
where people are sitting at tables and chairs,
Mhm.
um, and you've kind of already engaged in some conversation with them, maybe you ran the bucket or you just had good stage banner with them or whatever,
Mhm.
it could be cool to introduce it and if they're already captivated in that way.
Yeah.
But I did want to mention what's great about what I've embraced about playing Broadway um, is that it completely paid for my record that I just did. You
Yeah.
know, completely independent. I did it full time playing music. You know, no investors, no label or anything. And so like you can do it, you know what I mean? Like you can do it. You don't have to work a second job and you can make your own music by playing music full time. Yeah, there's so many different routes to take, but that just was the route that was available to me. But um
That is awesome, man. Why don't we wrap up by telling everybody where they can find your music and you in general, and this way they can also come see you when they're visiting Nashville and come watch you rock out.
yeah, it's the band name is PJ Ferguson and the Tennessee Strange. And we're on Spotify and Apple Music and all of that. Instagram at Tennessee Strange. That's where I'd say we're most active. Also TikTok. Um, yeah, and we got a record, Don't You Know It's All a Show. It's going to be out later this year. I think we're going to be releasing a single here within the next month. So
Awesome.
yeah,
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, and everybody go check.
thank you for having me.
I appreciate it, man.